The Money programme on BBC2 in 10 minutes has an exclusive TV interview with George Walker, who hits back at the banks which ousted him from his company, Brent Walker. Here on One, in a quarter of an hour, Songs of Praise. First, the news at 6:25 with Moira Stuart.
The headlines this evening: the Austrian government says the Lauda air crash over Thailand could have been caused by a computer fault. They think one engine went into reverse thrust, tearing the Boeing 767 apart. A woman injured in a car bomb attack outside her house near Belfast may have been the victim of mistaken identity. And a man wanted for questioning about the murder of Catherine Ailing has been arrested in America. Good evening. The Austrian Transport Minister has said there's evidence that the Lauda airplane crash last weekend may have been caused by a computer suddenly switching one of two engines into reverse thrust. The airline's owner, former racing driver Niki Lauda, said the pilots had just seconds to assess the situation before the Boeing 767 aircraft stalled and broke up, killing all 223 people on board.
When Lauda Flight 004 broke up over Thailand a week ago, it was initially thought to have been caused by a bomb. But accident investigators were puzzled because although one wing was several miles away, the rest of the plane didn't break up until shortly before hitting the ground. Today, Niki Lauda revealed it's now believed that a computerized engine thrust reverser suddenly deployed while the aircraft was climbing on full power. Thrust reversers are used to provide rapid deceleration as aircraft land. As the plane touches down, clamshell baffles behind the engines open, deflecting the jet thrust forwards, slowing it down until the normal brakes can take over. If this happened on one engine in mid-flight, it would cause a massive stress which, unless corrected very quickly, could tear off the wing.
The problems that the pilots would face are the kind of problems which you would face if you were traveling in your car along a motorway at about 100 miles an hour and the brakes came on automatically on one side only. Basically, even if you realized what had happened, it would have happened so fast that by the time you started trying to control the situation, the car would probably be completely out of control.
The question now is, was the problem in the engine computer, or was there a faulty microswitch somewhere? Pratt & Whitney, the engine's makers, said today that the reverse thrust unit was a separate part made by Boeing. Boeing said they won't comment until they know more about precisely what happened. The 767 is one of the world's best-selling big jets. Nearly 400 are in service all over the world, including 13 with British Airways. But today, BA stressed there's no problem with its aircraft. They're fitted with Rolls-Royce engines.
The Royal Ulster Constabulary say the woman who was injured in a car bomb attack outside her house near Belfast had no connection with the security forces. The bomb exploded under her car as she got into it.
The quiet cul-de-sac was rocked by the explosion shortly before midday. It seems a booby-trap bomb was detonated when a woman got into the driver's seat of the family's second car. The vehicle had been left parked in the driveway while the woman and her husband were on holiday. They arrived home only yesterday. Neighbours rushed to help the woman as she lay in the wreckage. She has serious leg injuries and has undergone emergency surgery. Her husband, who wasn't in the house at the time, arrived home 3/4 of an hour later to be told that his wife had been rushed to hospital. The police drove him there. The car was taken away for forensic examination, but it seems the terrorists have blundered. The police say neither the woman nor her husband have any connection with the security forces. At Glenann in County Armagh, the Ulster Defence Regiment flag flew at half-mast today in memory of the 3 soldiers who died during the IRA bomb attack on the base on Friday night. The Catholic primate, Archbishop Cahill Daly, described the killings of Lance Corporal Robert Crozier, Private Sidney Hamilton and Private Paul Blakely as morally abhorrent. The Archbishop said the terrorist campaign was utterly irrelevant to the real needs of people living in Northern Ireland. Throughout the day, the police have been scouring the wreckage for fragments of the massive bomb and the lorry which carried it. The general officer commanding the army in the province has said he's ordered a review of security at the base.
The Chancellor, Norman Lamont, says there are signs the economy is beginning to recover, but he warned the improvement could be slow at first and the government still has a lot to do before the election.
The Prime Minister has spent the day behind closed doors at Chequers, pondering how to reverse an ominous 6-point Labour lead in the latest opinion polls. But his ministers have been on the counter-attack, with the Chancellor reassuring doubters economic recovery is around the corner.
But already we're seeing houses for first-time buyers, more activity there. We're seeing orders placed by developers with builders increasing a bit. These are just vague stirrings at the moment, but the signs are there.
A Chancellor who, after 2.5 years of imposing the highest interest rates in Europe, can detect only vague stirrings in the economy and then proposes to do absolutely nothing about rising unemployment and falling investment, is guilty of wholesale economic mismanagement and is condemning by his inaction the country to a summer and indeed autumn of high unemployment, of closures and of bankruptcies.
William Waldegrave knows the health service reforms are voters' other main worry. And in a robust performance, he predicted the public would give the government the benefit of the doubt once people saw the reforms were providing better, faster treatment, not queue jumping.
What I can show is a new health service emerging out of the chrysalis of the old one, which will produce better health care for all the patients in not too far future. And what I was saying to the electorate is, don't throw away the chance of it.
But strategists at Tory Central Office worry that appeals for more time to get the NHS and the economy right after 12 years in office will provide ammunition the opposition will use to full effect, as the prospect of an autumn election becomes much more doubtful.
British detectives are to fly to the United States to interview Curtis Howard, the American student wanted for questioning in connection with the death of Catherine Ailing. Her body was found yesterday in a hire car at Gatwick Airport. She'd originally met Curtis Howard 2 years ago through a university exchange.
Curtis Howard was arrested by FBI officers at his brother's flat in Boston early yesterday evening. He was charged with illegally trying to obtain a passport, allegedly in the name of a 9-year-old boy who died in 1975. Detectives from Britain who want to question Mr. Howard in connection with Catherine Ailing's murder alerted the FBI.
Up until the 29th, we didn't know that the individual that we were looking for passport violation was a suspect in the murder in England.
Catherine Ailing's body was found yesterday at Gatwick Airport in the boot of a green Montego car. Police confirmed this morning that the student had died from multiple stab wounds. A fold-over knife was found in the car. There were signs of a struggle, but no signs of any sexual assault. The Montego had been hired by Curtis Howard in Stoke-on-Trent on Wednesday. Catherine Ailing went missing that evening from her college near Crewe. Detectives leading the murder inquiry say that Mr. Howard probably flew out of the country on Thursday morning, possibly using a false passport. They're now working closely with the FBI.
We have obtained a warrant for his arrest, and we are currently liaising with the agencies in America regarding this.
A team of detectives is expected to fly to America next week to interview Curtis Howard and to start extradition proceedings.
A second severe storm has hit southern Bangladesh in little more than a month. Winds of up to 80 miles an hour and 13-foot-high waves have battered some coastal areas. The Bangladeshi government fears that hundreds could have died in this latest disaster. More will be known when information comes through from the more remote regions. United Nations aid agencies are pulling out all non-essential staff from Ethiopia. Aid efforts have been suspended for a week because the international airport was closed after the rebel takeover last week. Ethiopians living in London have marched through the capital to protest at what they say is Western indifference to the famine in their country. About 300 people took part in the demonstration. They carried placards accusing Western governments of fueling the military conflict in Ethiopia after the end of the civil war. At the US Embassy, they handed over a letter to President Bush. The march continued on to Westminster, and the demonstrators say Britain and America should take greater action to ensure peace and prevent famine in Ethiopia. People in Kuwait have been told they'll be allowed to vote in parliamentary elections in October next year. An official decree from the country's rulers also summons the existing interim assembly to meet next month to prepare for democracy. Opposition parties blame the ruling family for trying to create a semblance of democracy, and they're calling for immediate elections. In a few hours' time, the Australian Labour Party will decide who's to be its leader and the country's Prime Minister. The contenders are Bob Hawke, the current Premier who's won 4 elections, and his Finance Minister and right-hand man, Paul Keating.
Bob Hawke is spending what may well be his last weekend at the Prime Minister's official residence. Doubts about his leadership have been rising ever since last year's election campaign. He won, but the signs of strain were showing, with increasing outbursts of public bad temper.
Get that bloody thing out of there and let me show you what I want. Now, that's what we want. Okay?
He's doing his best to appear confident now, with heavy stage whispers that he will have enough votes to retain the leadership.
Why did you delay the meeting? Because I've got the numbers, that's why.
The man challenging him, the Treasurer, Paul Keating, is a fearsome opponent. His belligerent parliamentary performances a guide to his abrasive style of politics.
No impropriety was committed or could be established by you. No impropriety could be established. Disgusting is not unparliamentary, you clown.
Order. God, sit down.
Sit down.
No, you sit down.
3 years ago, Mr. Hawke made a secret pact with Mr. Keating that he would stand down as Prime Minister in the Treasurer's favour. This weekend, though, has brought the final confirmation that all deals are off.
Football, Notts County have been promoted to the First Division after the playoff final at Wembley. Tommy Johnson scored twice in County's 3-1 victory over Brighton. Show jumping, France have won the Nations Cup at Hickstead, beating Great Britain in a jump-off. British hopes of success ended when David Broome failed to jump a clear round on countrymen, giving Britain a total of 16 faults. With the French team watching anxiously, Hervé Godignon made sure of a 4th Nations Cup title with France's 3rd clear round of the jump-off. The Spanish golfer Severiano Ballesteros has won the British Masters at Woburn. He took the title by 3 shots to claim his 2nd tournament win in a week.
7 shots clear, but victory for Sevi Ballesteros seemed anything but a formality after a wayward start to his final round. This escape wasn't enough to stop the Spaniard dropping 3 shots in the first 3 holes. But would-be challengers like Tony Charnley were also finding the course more hazardous than before. The chance of a major payday for one of the tour's lesser-known players was disappearing. Others were finishing well. Zimbabwe's Tony Johnston birdied the final 2 holes to take him to 10 under, 4 behind Ballesteros, where he was joined moments later by Sam Torrance, whose joint 2nd place will help his quest for a Ryder Cup place. By the 18th, Sevi was still 3 shots clear, and his touch, lacking for so much of the round, had returned. The victory, his 2nd of the week, takes him to the top of the European money list this season.
That's it. More news at 9:05.
Good evening to you. I've heard the expression June in January, but this is more like January in June. And a little weather warning for you. We are going to have some quite unusual low temperatures in the next few days, so watch out for some nasty frosts night and morning. Well, we've had actually some snow today over the Scottish mountains, that area of low pressure pulling away and introducing those cold northerly winds. And that area of low pressure will move on southeastwards overnight, and as you see, those stiff winds feeding down over most parts of the country. Now, we've got a fair bit of rain at the moment in the Midlands. That's going to be heading down into the southeast in the very near future. And then it'll be clearing away as the night goes along, just leaving some showers chiefly around northern and eastern facing coasts. And with clearing skies inland, it is going to turn out to be a chilly night, but it'll be fairly breezy, so I think we're only going to get a touch of frost locally in those sheltered spots. And then tomorrow was certainly a cold, windy day, I think, virtually everywhere. Right from the word go, there'll be showers around those north-facing coasts, and I think we're going to find that during the course of the day, the cloud will bubble up, and by the end of the morning, there's going to be a fair number of showers beginning to break out, and they're going to last through into the afternoon. And some of the showers could well be heavy with hail and thunder. And again, they're going to turn wintry over those northern hills, especially with some sleet and snow. And you might even see some sleet in the heavier showers in other parts as well. Temperature-wise, tomorrow's certainly not brilliant. A cold day everywhere, especially in the east.
Sunday's Songs of Praise comes from Worksop Priory, Nottinghamshire. Then at 7:15, Haute Cuisine in Butterflies.
There you have a nice, clean, moulded gem.
At 7:45, All Creatures Great and Small in Pursuit of a Cat. Then Simon Williams joins Joan Collins in Shadow Play.
Seriously, Vicky, there's something I want to say to you. I've been wanting to say it for quite a while.
Take the plunge, darling. We're alone in the swimming pool.
At 9:20, is whistling really a dying art?
Right, give us a whistle.
And then at 10 o'clock, the Mastermind Final 1991 comes from the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst. A winning selection for Sunday on 1.